How would you feel if there were no major Stranger Things character deaths in the rest of Season 5? What's going on, guys? It's Ty the TV Guy, back with another Stranger Things 5 video, of course, and I'm filming this less than 24 hours before the release of Volume 2, which is giving us 3 more episodes, of course, with Shock Jock, Escape from Camazotz, and The Bridge. So super thrilled to see those episodes, of course, first and foremost. But I wanted to touch on this topic a little bit because I've seen a growing sentiment in a section or segment of the Stranger Things community recently, especially since Volume 1 released, that they don't think there's going to be any main characters that actually die come the end of the show. And I feel like that's a bit far-fetched, to be honest, but I'm going to get a bit more into my opinion on this here in the coming minutes of this video. Before I do, make sure to like and comment down below about how you would feel if this were to happen, meaning no major characters would die after all this time. And then make sure to subscribe to the channel as well for my future Stranger Things content over the next month that I'm going to keep churning out. And then, of course, for future TV shows and movie reviews as well. But as I said, I feel like there's been a growing portion of the community of Stranger Things that has been talking about this recently, and not only saying they think there may be no main character deaths, but that they'd actually be all right with it. I mean, I've had many people in my comment sections going, I honestly don't think there needs to be a death to end the show. I think it could be a satisfying ending without a main character dying. And I've even seen some reputable YouTubers who talk about the show a lot, kind of like me, also kind of, repeat a similar message. Like, they would low-key be okay if no main characters died. Like, it's not something they need to end the show for it to be a good ending. And to be honest, I kind of just flat out disagree. And of course, if this was a real life scenario, I would never wish anyone to die, of course. But, in the context of this being a show and entertainment and of the stakes feeling real in such a grand and, to be quite honest with you at this point, like, sometimes unbelievable universe, to me, there has to be some type of major loss for our crew. And the major losses over the years that they've had, now some have been significant to our characters in the show, don't get me wrong. Bob was important to Joyce at the time. Eddie was a great friend to Dustin, and we're seeing how that's impacted him. There have been big losses, Billy to Max, all that. But as far as a character that has lasted a long time with the audience and then has been a big loss, the only couple they've gotten close to killing have been Hopper and Max, and those characters have both been brought back to life, essentially. And so we're still waiting for that moment where it's like, we are stripped of a character and have to grapple with the fact that they're gone forever. And to me, with the show where the stakes have been built up as high as they have here, and there's just so much going on, it would be hard, in my opinion, to argue that it makes sense for no one to die. It's like, what, they're going to go through this whole final battle, which I'm anticipating, of course, to be absolutely epic, terrifying, and super hard to win, although I think, the good guys will ultimately come out on top. But you're telling me all that's going to happen with no sacrifice, with no loss? To me, that just wouldn't do it for me. I don't know how else to state it, really. Like, why would nobody die in this battle? Now, obviously, yeah, it's going to be gut-wrenching. It's going to suck no matter who dies. Even if some of my, in my opinion, lesser main characters die. Someone like Jonathan at this point, I don't think is a super strong character. I think he was strong in earlier seasons, but regardless, it would still hurt for me if he died. Still a character that I have an attachment to from all these years watching him. And that really goes for any of the main characters at this point. If they kill off any one of them, I will feel that way. So I really just think they need to at least kill one. My prediction coming into the season was that they would kill 3 main characters. Now, I thought a couple of those would be like pretty major characters, and then one would be like a fringe main character like Murray, for example. But I still thought it would be 3 total. I do agree that just based on what we've seen in Volume 1 and kind of some of the discussions we've heard with the Duffer Brothers in interviews and maybe other actors from the show and things like that, that maybe I've, backed away from the 3 main characters dying down to 2 now. And I could see it being just like one major character with the huge sacrifice like Eleven or Will, something of that nature. But I just really don't see our crew having another epic battle to end the season, the most epic and grand of them all, with the evil creatures, Vecna, I think the Mind Flayer will return, and whoever else they have fighting for them at the peak of their powers. trying to mesh the two worlds together, and you're telling me nobody gets caught up and, falls as a sacrifice in this battle. To me, that wouldn't feel realistic whatsoever. It wouldn't feel like a proper ending and send-off to the show if everybody just makes it out alive. And once again, of course, I won't be sitting there like actively rooting for characters to die, because once again, I have an emotional attachment to every one of these main characters. It is my favorite show ever, largely because of how captivating and charismatic most of these characters are, not to mention well written, well acted, all that stuff kind of ties in. But yes, I will be sad no matter what, but I kind of want to be sad. I want to feel all the emotions that, by the way, have been promised by the cast and the writers and everyone throughout this whole process, saying that this final episode is going to be like the most emotional thing you've ever watched. It's going to crush you. It's heartwarming in some aspects, but heartbreaking in many aspects as well. Why would this be so heartbreaking if it wasn't for a huge loss that the crew has to endure? To me, that would take me through all the emotions. It would make me feel like, yes, in the end, they triumph in this huge war with Vecna and the Upside Down. But yeah, they had to suffer. They had to lose because of it. And I know they have a little bit throughout the seasons, but there has to be one main final death and sacrifice. Not to mention, it just makes sense for one of 11, Will, or someone else with a close connection to the Upside Down to die to help end this whole thing. And so, that's kind of my reasoning for how I feel. It doesn't get much more complicated than the fact that just the stakes are so high. And I feel like it would rob us of super emotional moments that we've been promised by the creators and actors within the show, just for no reason. Why? There's nothing to save them for anymore. As sad as that makes me, I wish there were more seasons of the show. I could watch it forever, but, all good things do come to an end. It's coming to an end. I understand bringing Hopper back as one of the fan favorite characters, one of the best actors in the show. You want to keep him included. Maybe there's more story to tell. Okay, you bring him back in Russia. He's saved. It's all cool. I still think he had the perfect arc through 3 seasons. Yada, yada, yada. That's not the point of this video. My point is, yes, they've brought back characters in the past. Okay, I get it. Shown hesitance to kill off characters before. Okay, I get it. Want to have them for the end of the show and more story to tell for that character. But there's not any more story to tell for any of these characters moving forward, conceivably. So do what's got to be done. Make the fight as realistic as possible, which to me means there's going to be loss. And it just won't feel like, the victory to me meant as much if they didn't have to go through a lot of strife to achieve it. And so that's kind of just how I feel about it. To reiterate one last time, I've said it like 3 times now, I will not be rooting for any of these characters to die, but as like a non-biased fans, taking my emotions out of it, should a character die in these circumstances? Yes, to me, it makes sense. Emotionally, it would pay off some arcs of these characters, and I just think it has to happen, guys. And yeah, I've just been surprised at how many people I've seen commenting, I disagree with your point that some main characters have to die, or I don't really think any main characters are going to die, or even a channel I commonly mention here because he was kind of my inspiration for creating this channel and talking about shows, including Stranger Things, Film Stalked. He has a lot of subscribers, a lot more than me, but he was even talking in a recent video, a theory video he was doing. He was like, yeah, I honestly don't know if I need a main character to die to end the show. And I was like, really? I realize not every show has to be about, a character dying. There's been many successful shows on Netflix and just TV series in general where, there isn't like a huge character death within it. But for this to be the show of all shows where a character doesn't die at the end as part of the grand finale, and to have that huge emotional moment for the fans to hold on to and grieve along with the characters, it would just feel odd to me personally. Maybe I don't get the whole drift, and maybe it doesn't need to happen. But I just feel like, yeah, once again, of all shows, Stranger Things, with all the challenges they've faced and are sure to face in volumes 2 and 3 here, with the evil that is afoot, come on, somebody has to go. I just really think it should and is going to happen. Like I've said all along, my character death predictions have been 11, Jonathan, and Murray. I'm still pretty confident that those are the most likely characters to die. Obviously, Will is up there as well, but if Will dies, I don't think 11 or Jonathan would die because I feel like in different respects it's redundant. 11 and him are the ones with powers now, and I don't think both Byers brothers would die. That'd be crazy. That's all I have for today, guys. I appreciate you tuning in, and stay tuned as well for my upcoming videos. I'm going to be reacting as soon as I watch the 3 episodes in Volume 2, revisiting some moments from Volumes 1 and 2 over the next week until we get that finale episode, and then I'm just going to have so many videos to wrap up all my feelings on this show and review everything as well. So appreciate the support. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.